If you are about to spend millions importing a luxury SUV into Kenya and you still haven't decided which one, this video will make that decision obvious. I'll show you exactly what the 2026 Range Rover Vogue costs to import, what it's like to live with on Kenyan roads, and whether it actually deserves that price tag. Most important, guides give you the glamour and skip the reality. We are going to give you both in the next few minutes. This is for buyers who want a serious luxury SUV, not just something that looks good at Two Rivers. By the end, you'll know exactly whether the 2026 Range Rover Vogue fits your life, your roads, and your budget. I call this the import reality check. It covers presence, performance, and the real cost of ownership here in Kenya. We've covered Land Rover and Range Rover ownership in Kenya across dozens of videos. Real roads, real costs, real problems. Everything I'm showing you today is based on what actually matters when this car meets a Nairobi pothole, not a British motorway. We'll cover three things: the design and interior, the performance on Kenyan roads, and the true cost of ownership. The single most overlooked import cost isn't the duty, it's the maintenance budget in year 2 and year 3. Keep that in mind before we even talk about the price. You can apply everything in this video to your decision before you wire a shilling to buy this vehicle. Right now, most buyers researching Range Rovers online are reading UK and US reviews written by UK or US mechanics. One piece of context specific to Kenya can save you hundreds of thousands of shillings in surprises. So let me show you what this car is actually like from the outside in, starting with why presence matters more than specs sheets. The first problem with choosing a luxury SUV in Kenya is what I call the presence problem. Buying a car that looks expensive in photos but feels ordinary in real life. If your SUV doesn't command a second look at Village Market or Upper Hill, you've paid a premium for a vehicle that blends in. Think of presence like a first sentence in a speech. It either earns the room or it doesn't. Here's what the wrong choice looks like. We import a high-spec German SUV, beautiful on paper, but on a Nairobi Sunday, if parked next to a Vogue, no one looks twice at it. That's the presence problem in action. You paid more, you got less attention, and the resale story gets harder to tell. The 2026 Vogue passes the line test immediately. Slim headlights, flush door handles, and almost perfectly vertical rear. It is instantly recognizable without being loud. Ask yourselves this about any luxury import. Does it look expensive, or does it look like it's trying to look expensive? The Vogue looks like it stopped trying years ago. That's understated authority. And in Kenya's high-end social spaces, that still carries enormous weight. And this is before we even talk about which trim level you are sitting in, because the 2026 Range Rover comes in 7 distinct trims, and the difference between the entry level and the top of the range is visible from across a car park. Every shilling you spend on the outside is wasted if the inside doesn't deliver. And most SUVs at this price point disappoint the moment you open the door. One interior design changes how every hour you spend in the traffic actually feels. But before we go inside, you need to understand the second problem, the one most buyers completely miss. This is the comfort illusion problem. And it is when a car looks luxurious in photos but feels average when you are stuck in a Thika Road jam for 45 minutes. Your goal as a buyer isn't owning something that photographs well. Your goal is to feel the difference every single time you sit down. Land Rover calls it the command driving position. I call it the reason you'll never want to drive anything else. The 2026 Vogue's cabin is a lounge, not a cockpit. Curved touchscreen, digital driver's display, soft leather, real metal trim, all of it clean and calm. The seats heat, cool, and massage. The last one sounds like a gimmick until you are in a jam on Mombasa Road and your back quietly thanks you. Double glazed glass and serious sound insulation mean border horns and matatu noise basically disappear once the door shuts. Now, what you actually get inside depends heavily on which of the 7 trim levels you import, and this is the conversation most buyers skip entirely. For 2026, the SE is the entry point. Next is the Westminster Edition, a special British-inspired trim sitting between the SE and the HSE, bringing its own unique exterior and interior design touches rooted in London character and timeless elegance. Then comes the HSE. Above the HSE is the Autobiography, then the SV, and then the SV Black, which takes the same SV foundation and wraps it in full gloss black exterior pack for a darker, more dramatic character. And at the very top sits the SV Ultra, what Land Rover describes as the platinum Range Rover experience that adds a level of craftsmanship and personalization that is simply on its own class. On top of all that, you also choose your body style, the standard wheelbase or the long wheelbase or the long wheelbase 7 seats, each one changing how the car lives and breathes in daily Kenyan use. And if you are the buyer who gets driven, this is where the Vogue separates itself completely. Massive legroom, reclining seats, separate climate controls, rear screens, and in the right spec, an executive lounge configuration that makes a Nairobi to Coast run feel like business class. In the SV and SV Ultra specifically, the rear experiences reaches its peak with the 13.1-inch rear entertainment screen, executive class comfort plus seating, and the body and soul rear seats that heat, cools, massages, and reclines, turning the back of the SUV into a genuine mobile lounge. For executives heading to Westlands or families doing long-haul trips, that comfort isn't a luxury, it's a productivity decision. Most buyers fall in love with the interior and forget to ask the one question that decides everything. What does this car do when the road runs out? Because in Kenya, the road always runs out eventually. Can this SUV deliver its promise on broken tarmac, speed bumps that appear from nowhere, and wet Maram roads in March? A car that performs on a British motorway is not the same car that performs between Nairobi and the Mara. That gap between spec sheets performance and the real-world Kenyan performance, that's what we are testing now. Under the bonnet, you have a 3.0-liter turbocharged inline-6 mild hybrid with around 395 horsepower or a 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8 with over 520 Nm of torque, 8-speed automatic full-time 4-wheel drive. The 2026 Range Rover also comes loaded with the configurable terrain response, all-wheel steering, torque vectoring by braking, and on the higher SV trims, electronic active differential and dynamic response pro, a package that makes this SUV genuinely capable, not just convincingly capable. On the road, the electronic air suspension flattens broken surfaces, absorbs rogue speed bumps, and keeps the cabin calm, even when the road underneath is not. Off tarmac, terrain response, adjustable ride height, and proper 4x4 hardware means this SUV can handle a muddy Mara track or highland access road without becoming a liability. And for navigating the kind of tricky terrain between Nairobi and wherever you are headed, the 3D surround camera and the clear sight ground view, which effectively lets you see through the bonnet using cameras projected onto your screen, are available and genuinely practical on rough Kenyan access roads. Here's how this plays out in your real life. Your weekly drive includes anything rougher than Wayakui. Then the air suspension absorbs what would rattle a normal luxury SUV into discomfort. That's the good news. What comes next is what most import buyers find out too late. Even if you love everything about this car, there is one area that will cost you if you go in unprepared. So let me give you the full cost reality, a checklist you can use before you make a single payment overseas. A new 2026 Range Rover Vogue starts well above $100,000 internationally. Adding shipping duty, clearing, registration, and insurance, and you are in a serious investment territory. And that number climbs significantly depending on the trim. The gap between the SE standard wheelbase and the SV ultra long wheelbase is enormous. If you need a quote or further consultation for any of these beasts, reach out to me on WhatsApp or calls using this number on your screen right now. But year one is just the beginning. Premium fuel, premium tires, complex electronics, air suspension servicing, and software updates all carry premium price tags. International owners already flag occasional software glitches and electronic niggles. In Kenya, that means a trusted specialist, patience when parts ship, and maintenance budget that isn't an afterthought. So here are 3 questions. Run every luxury import through these 3 before you wire any amount of money. First, can I afford the full cost, not just the import price? That's your total cost of ownership test. Second, is there a trusted specialist in Nairobi who knows this model? That's your workshop access test. Third, am I choosing this with my head or my heart? That's your rational versus emotional test. If you can answer yes, the 2026 Vogue is your car. Apply those 3 questions to your next import decision and you will avoid the most expensive mistake Kenyan buyers make. If you want a full import cost breakdown and comparison between the Vogue, the Defender, the Velar, and real ownership stories from Kenya, make sure that you reach out to us through the number in the description or as shown on this video. Either you can call or WhatsApp us, and don't forget to click this next video so that I can show you all that you're going to get from this luxury SUV.